right. Hello to everybody out there. Welcome back to Nifty Dimensions. Got an extra special treat for you today. A multi-talented artist. I'll try to get through as much of this as I can. He's doing a lot of stuff. He's got some amazing NFTs on Maker's Place called Animal Activations. Very good stuff. So check that out. He also has many musical albums and projects out, a band called Heofon, right? If I'm pronouncing that correct.
Yeah.
And an amazing solo album that I've been digging the last few days called Oracle Chamber, as well as up to many other artistic facets. Please welcome to the show, Mr. Simon Haiduk. What's up, Simon?
Hey, thanks so much, Leonardo.
It's great to have you here, man.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Definitely. I'm a little hyped up. Just had some coffee.
Yeah,
feeling
nice.
good. Went for a little walk ahead of time.
Yeah.
Tried to get some sun,
Nice. Yeah. Got to get the nature vibes in for sure.
Definitely. I felt it would be good for today's interview because I know you got a lot going on. I couldn't even mention it all in the intro. I figured some of the stuff I'll just pull, break it out while we're talking, because you've been up to so much.
Sure.
And luckily, I know you reached out to Freeman, and Freeman then informed me that you wanted to come onto the show. So I appreciate you coming on, man.
Yeah, super stoked to connect with you guys.
Yeah, same.
It's great that you're doing this. Yeah,
you got lots of good music. I
thank you.
Yeah, really great stuff. The mystical prog rock. I'm really digging that.
Right on.
I can't wait to get it on the big stereo with the subwoofer on and all. I think that's going to be when the experience really kicks in to the next level. Yeah,
sweet. Yeah, thanks for checking it out.
Definitely. Yeah, I'll be recommending it to people too. I have a lot of friends and some family too that are really into prog, especially Dream Theater and Rush and and stuff like that. So yeah.
Nice. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, my music's definitely sort of more of a, I guess I consider it in some terms compared to my visual art, music's sort of more of a hobby because I don't make a living off of it, but I still make over the past 20 years, I've been making albums, lots of solo albums. And then Heofon is one with a band, playing with people, jamming. And then my ambient music it's in some ways kind of like prog ambient music. Is that such a thing? But it has a like cosmic aspect to it, and has like it's progressive. It has like a journey. It's like meant for journeying. And so it ties into it all. But awesome. I like to experiment with all those different realms of creation.
Yeah, I could see that. I can hear that too. Oracle Chamber I've just had it on repeat, especially in the morning. Yeah.
Nice.
My friend Bob is visiting from Virginia, a long time friend I met at the first Free Your Mind conference through Freeman and some other friends. And he's been checking it out in the morning too, really getting into it. He's a morning wake and baker, so he was officially appreciating it for sure.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
And you make some ambient also, like you make some kind of, would you call your other music prog also? Like you're kind of mixing in the same realms of ambient and prog?
Definitely.
Prog rock?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
I was influenced by all that stuff a lot. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I've heard some of your more like rock music, which is awesome, but haven't found the ambient stuff yet, so I'm stoked.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah, I have an album I put out under the name Leonardo the 13th. Just kind of like a play, how I told you the first time we talked, I can never choose on my artist name. So this was kind of like me nerding out to the fullest, synths and just going hard, even weird plugins of, I can't think of, hong drums, but I don't have a hong drum. So I got like a plug-in of one, VST, and so it's like sci-fi, horror, ambient music, and everything in between. Some stuff was meant for horror, like John Carpenter is a big influence on me.
Okay.
Yeah, stuff like that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool explorations.
Hell yeah. But let's get into you, because you have been up to many things. First off, I did notice, and this is kind of a little side thing. So Bowels of Gold Earth Day fundraiser, was that last year?
Yeah. Well, no, that was this year in the kind of Yeah, like I think around June I did that. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
Bow's Gold. Yeah, that was one of my animated, a really early digital painting, one of my first, I think, second one. And yeah, I made it into an animated NFT. I animate most of my artworks, actually. I've been doing it for years, so it's cool to bridge them over into this NFT space.
Yeah.
And that one was to raise funds for the Ancient Forest Alliance and protectors of Fairy Creek Blockade, which is some of the last ancient rainforest on Vancouver Island, which is fairly close to where I live, which is just at threat of being totally devastated and cut down. So, yeah.
I'm glad you brought it up. I read through and I just felt like it was such an important thing that I didn't want to leave it out of the episode.
Okay. Yeah.
A lot of props to you for doing that.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, I can't help it. I have a weak spot for artists that give back. I really do. One of my favorite NFT artists, they're called Crypto Broskis, and every Crypto Broski that gets bought, trees get planted. You know, they literally put money towards planting trees, and I like that kind of stuff. I think that's really needed in the NFT space, and I'm really hoping we dig into some of that. The aspects of there's always a lot of positive to it, and there's a lot of good that come out of it. But I also know that there's some other things involved in it and some darker issues in there. And yeah, would you like to touch on any of that? I know it's a subject you and I were both kind of wanting to get into a little bit.
Yeah. Well, where do you want to go first? I mean, do you want to talk about the positive first? There's kind of a spec. You just mentioned the spectrum, but like I'll start with the positive because I do appreciate like what I saw first getting into it within the first starting in March was kind of, you know, when a lot of people got into it, there was all this hype and I was fully diving in. And what was cool is like right away, tons of artists were like, how can we raise money for good causes? And that is awesome, you know? Yes. And I've just seen that continuously. So people putting it together and being like, you know, I want to give back. So I think that's a really beautiful thing. And I mean, just the creativity expansion that I saw starting to happen with people wanting to get into their art in a new way was a pretty awesome explosion this winter after, you know, people feeling cooped up, locked down, all these things, people wanting to explore art and find value in art in these new ways. Like, how can we value art and how can art become a new kind of currency within this digital system of how we value things? Like, what do we put value into? Which has a kind of like confusing side to it. It's really fascinating to watch it play out. But I think, you know, just being able to see that and the collaborations and the types of creativity coming out of it was really interesting for sure.
Definitely. Yeah, there's been Nifty Gateway's had some pretty interesting collabs. OpenSea, I love how like Bit Aliens would collab with somebody else, and all these different NFTs were blended or hybridized versions of these characters. And I love all that stuff. Trust me, I'm way more pro than I am con, but I do like the exciting, I won't lie, you know, like being the producer of the show, it was exciting for me to think about us like the dark side of crypto. When you said that, that was an exciting thought to me, because I don't ever, and I'm pushing for it more on the show. Hopefully the viewers out there are appreciating it. A balance. Where I first started the show, I was so gung-ho and into crypto that like you couldn't have slowed me down. You couldn't have told me anything was possibly bad or, you know, any negative possibilities. It took a couple rug pulls done on me and some things like that. Maybe, you know, artists like not being legit, and a couple of things that have shown me that it's definitely not at all innocent and bubblegum and roses. There's a lot going on there, and there's a lot of hope that people get when they, you know, like you hear, oh, I can make lots of money and all, and that's awesome. And it's true 100%, or, you know, make a lot of crypto or whatever. But I do think there's a dynamic of, as far as like too much promise based on seeing some of the pieces like, oh, CryptoPunk, millions of dollars, or which I think created, and myself included, like I think a little bit of like greed, a little bit of the artist kind of came, went away because you start seeing dollar signs, and I think that happens in that realm.
Yeah, I think that's really awesome of you to point out. It's a really like honest look at what happened and why did it happen in that way, and I think we all got sucked into this greed dragon for sure. I could feel it. It was like moving through in the conversations I was having with people. It was like there was this entity of just like, rah, like let's get into this.
Yeah.
Because it was so mind-blowing to see those numbers and be like, what? Like I just share my animations on Instagram and you get some likes, whatever, but mostly like you can't do anything with a lot of this digital art. I mean, I sell prints and I make a living off my prints and different types of prints, but the animated stuff, I've had a hard time finding an avenue for it. So it's like, oh, amazing, finally, but then it's not just animated art. Of course, there's all a whole realm of what you could do with like NFTs, but I am curious about that. And we know financial markets are rigged. Like, I mean, if you've looked into it, it's like been pretty proven over time, that the economics in these financial markets are totally rigged. There's big players, they're manipulating things. And so what was underlying this big boom, and how is it connected to digital currency, and where do we see digital currency going? Is it like going to liberate us in some way or enslave us? And what are the environmental costs? That was a big question that was coming up for a lot of people, which was just so hotly debated.
It was.
So those types of things, I think we have to look at, like, especially as any type of artist that wants to create art, to engage like any type of state of consciousness of observing and reflecting views on the world. What are you contributing to? At least for me, I have to analyze honestly, like where things are going. And of course, we never really know, but I think we should be checking ourselves throughout the process, and trying to not get sucked into things and that might be more detrimental.
Totally. Yeah. It's like something I've noticed. It's like sports teams. Crypto I see it as like, oh, my team's better, invest in my team, or my team's better. And it's created this giant greed thing. And I've been feeling it more and more as I've been doing the show. Like it was eating away at me a little bit, because I'm like, man, I got to keep it real on here. Like I'm not going to shill stuff. I'm not going to push things like that I don't believe in. Any NFT artists that I've brought on or talked about, I genuinely like them. Most likely got one of their pieces already. But like there are other things in the crypto realm that should be discussed, like rug pulls, or even on the 7th, 3 days ago. Today it's the 10th, we're doing this in September, but on the 7th, it was like a brick wall. 10 a.m. on the dot, everything drops like perfect synchronized, whatever, orchestrations or whatever. So that's how there's people playing games making a lot of money.
Yeah, some big strings being pulled, and man, so like that's a potentially big rabbit hole. I guess when we're doing it, I try to think of like where does our time go in terms of, let's say, being online. Even like that's something that I think about a lot, because I really like being outside. I like having a garden, and I feel like more and more that I'm being connected to the earth and my surroundings. I make art that's about that. I feel better. And the thing about NFTs and crypto, what I've noticed is, like, especially the times that I do get into crypto, it's like, oh, you're monitoring the statistics of like where things are at. And if you want to get into trading, you're constantly checking. I only did that for a little while, and I was like, I had to back away. But with the NFT thing too, a lot of it's about like hype and hyping online communities, and people were like, build a community. I was trying to build a community. I started like I was going to start like a visionary art NFT website to sell psychedelic visionary art, had a whole mythos attached to it. And there was all this about building online communities, but it really brings into question to me, like, and VR and these types of things, like let's meet in VR, let's hang out in VR and view things online.
Yeah.
But is that, like there's a place for that, but also how much of it do you do in balance with actually being outside and connecting to real people?
Oh, right.
And so I kind of see this weird thing with this money manipulation and what's going on with the world, with lockdowns and things like that. It's like, as long as it's almost like a potentially a distraction of like, if you can keep people focused online and keep them thinking that they're gaining value by like trading things and collecting and interacting with people, it doesn't matter. We can, and
Right.
they won't mind being locked up or whatever it is. I mean, that's kind of going on a bit of a rabbit hole, but there's something to, even if we don't look at the more like conspiracy side of it, let's say, because that's whatever, but just even spending time online, and hyping oneself and building a community online, is that taking away from your access to nature? If I were to simplify it without the conspiracy talk.
Right. Yeah. It's just interesting subject. I feel like there needs to be a good balance. I'm the same way. Like, I practice qigong. If I can find the right time and place for sun gazing, I will do that. I think it's very important, at least for me, to recharge and get my energy correct. I didn't know from the get-go, because I understand what the World Economic Forum and things that have been discussed about the future, and you'll own nothing and you'll like it. And I knew about that before getting into crypto. So I won't lie, I didn't invest much into it. I sold some NFTs at a pretty good price, and I used that to invest. So then, but I don't know I don't know the long and short.
Yeah, well, because we see, like, what I see in the crypto space and what I enjoyed seeing is that I do think that there's a lot of thoughtful, well-meaning people. Just like in any industry, there's so many well-meaning people. And they want, and a lot of people in the different crypto spaces, whatever token they're working on, are trying to do good things. Like I was really connecting for a while with the Tezos community, bringing up platforms like Columnt. And because there was all this FUD around the environmental impact of certain tokens like Ethereum and Bitcoin. So, and their environmental impact. So it's like, okay, well, which tokens are looking at proof of stake and things that might use less energy? And how can we have more what they might call equity amongst the community?
Right.
And I'm not sure, like, I'm not saying specifically Tezos is that one, because there's some things I was learning about it where I'm like, I don't know, is it? It's really confusing. It's hard to tell with a lot of them, but hearing people, and I feel like they're honestly trying to work out that there is a system of money that's been in the world for quite a while now that's obviously super corrupt. They can just print it at their will. They can trade it. They control the markets. So if there are other people outside of that creating these new economies, potentially new outside systems of money that can also involve trading art. And what I was really getting hyped on for a while was like, wow, like art as a currency. Whoa, like that's cool. Like, I don't even really know what that means, but it's pretty awesome. Like, I love the idea of like these things being traded around, and the currency is actually this beautiful work of art, or just something that you resonate with as a piece of art,
Right.
So there's all those things being weaved together in this, and it's it's fascinating to watch it go down. But because I know that certain words get flagged, but I just think it's really valuable for the whole NFT community and crypto community to keep this on the radar at all times, unless you're someone that totally buys into and wants all of this. Like, maybe you want a microchip implant, maybe you want the Neuralink, maybe you're so stoked on like exiting this world and being in a VR reality, but I'm not personally. I'm happy with like making art and digital technology, but I want to be a part of nature. We don't exist without nature. So I don't really see how a reality exists for people where it becomes like all VR. It doesn't make sense. Like, that is the Matrix. You're building the Matrix.
Oh, for sure. No, you said it, and you're not the only one. One of my favorite VR artists, her name is Sarah Finn. She's amazing. And as time's gone on, especially in the last year, her YouTube videos and all, she's been saying very similar things. And it's made it to where even her VR work is all based on nature because she decided she needed to get outside and really dig in the dirt and plant some trees and get out there because it's so important. So I'm with you, and I know you're not the only one. I think the more we dive into these things, there's an unbalancing that's happening unless you go and balance it out with a camping trip or even just hanging out back or whatever, but getting out for a walk. Yeah, anything like that. I find it extremely important, but I am definitely, I practice Qigong and meditation. I have, for a long time. I find it a vital part of, regenerating. So I think frequency, sunlight. The last interview I did was Chance Garton, a great dude, and we were talking about all these things. And it's me kind of swooping in on the show, like time out, like there needs to be, I wanted more depth. I didn't want to just be like, oh, everything's awesome and great and just buy some NFTs and you'll be okay. Like, yeah. And it was kind of creeping me out because that's just not the reality of my life. It's not the reality of your life. And I don't want to pretend, not that I have been, but I felt like it was time to step it up. And luckily I haven't lost any viewers from it or anything. I've only gained, and even if I did, it would be okay. Where, I want this channel to be like a safe, enjoyable place for people to come to and check stuff out, and not feel like they're getting pushed the trendiest cool thing and go spend. I mean, shit, we didn't even talk about your amazing NFT line yet. But I want to talk about that. But
I feel like I can arc a bridge there with all those things that you were just saying.
Thank you.
So let me let me try. And I so much appreciate that you're talking about this. I feel like it's wholehearted to dive into these things with the full spectrum of the realities that we're facing. I think it's just full honesty. So I totally appreciate that. And I hope that the viewers do as well, and I know they're out there. I've had lots of these conversations on Clubhouse also with people. So it's real. And, cool. Just for example, okay, so being online, that we're talking about the World Economic Forum, these people, so they're, Klaus Schwab is warning about the cyber pandemic and how it's going to be worse. Like, you thought COVID was bad. Well, this is going to be like 100 times worse. Like, he's saying things like that. Right. And where there's clips in the news warning about the cyber shutdown due to solar flares or whatever. So it seems like they're kind of setting the stage, maybe kind of like how they did with Event 201 and these other things. Like, they're setting the stage potentially for, at the very least, well, let's say this, for example, like in Pakistan, what I've heard of is that they're cutting people off their phones, their SIM cards. They're turning off their SIM cards if they don't have the injections. And at some universities in the US, they're cutting students off of their access to Wi-Fi if they don't have the injections. And so these are the things we're talking about, access to online things. So if they can do that and they could just shut off your internet or cut off areas of internet, whatever happens, even if it's a cybersecurity attack. So if you don't know what your local surroundings are like in your environment, and you haven't been connecting with people in your direct community, you're probably going to feel a bit lost if this cyber pandemic happens that they're warning about. Like, how long do things get shut down before you've lost your online community entirely? You've lost it. So who do you know in your community? You probably want to start to get to know some people that you can connect with and feel supported by, like some face-to-face people. So, that's a big thing. And so how can I tie that into, so then you were talking about frequencies, you were talking about Qigong and frequencies. And so I do think a lot of this has to do with frequency, in the sense, I love Qigong, by the way. Also, me and my partner Jane have been doing a lot of it. We love Yochi. Got to give Yochi a shout out. I don't know if you've seen her videos, but they're awesome. Anyway,
I will though.
Yeah, super good. Really connective, that flowing movement, grounding and spiritually activated, anything like that. And it's those types of that type of medicine, which is also like being in the forest. As soon as I go into nature, like whether it's my garden, but even specifically a forest, I feel like cobwebs are being like just taken away from my body, like
Yeah.
I can be in my studio for many hours, and sometimes it is like almost a full day. God, I'm doing a lot of work on my computer. I work on my computer, but I do get like a stuffy, headachy feeling. It's like the minute I go into the forest, I'm like, I feel better. And so I do think that there's all kinds of frequencies. Obviously, everything's energy. And so my art is all about that also. Like the art that I make has to do with metaphysical energy and essentially like visualizing sound and light frequencies within nature and animals. And so I animate it. I often make the music. I make music, and all these things are tied together with frequencies. I love things like sound healing, and cymatics, and thinking about all of that kind of stuff and tying it together so that the art itself is like evoking a higher state of consciousness or a higher frequency, or just let's say I might call it a more connected to nature, or a more holistic consciousness frequency,
Right.
Something like that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, the animal activations, I'm looking at them on the screen right now. Really cool stuff. I love it. I'm not going to play any sound, but really good stuff here. Anybody watching, it's on makersplace.com. I'll have links below. Definitely check out Simon's NFTs. Yeah, this stuff's great.
Thanks, man. Yeah, and I do have some on Colorment also. I'll just give you my link tree, which goes to I need to organize my NFT page on my website better. It's been tricky. I think that's been one of the difficult things with this whole NFT surge, is like all these new platforms and tokens, and wondering where to go. Like, where's the best market for me? Where's, so I do have things a little bit spread out, but my most, what am I going to call them? Like sort of most elaborate ones are on Maker's Place. I was waiting for a platform that could host like the higher resolution files. And so it took a while for me to get on that platform, and they allow for bigger file sizes. So that's where I chose to put those ones for that reason.
Right.
It's not necessarily because I think ETH is the best. I mean, God, who doesn't hate gas fees, like,
Still,
and that weird, so weird. Like, what's going on there, right? Like,
it sucks.
But, I feel like, when we're talking about, like, let's say the dark side of crypto and building the matrix and things like that. Well, if all these things are frequency, and what we're creating, we're putting frequency into the world, we have opportunities to, try and balance out these expressions to at least whatever the digital space is, like whatever hyperspace, digital hyperspace it's creating, you're, injecting your emotional experience, your sort of like influence, I guess, on this space. And man, it was weird, like it was weird at the beginning to see how kind of almost nonsensical and random NFTs were, and kind of still are. Like,
totally.
I don't think anyone really gets that, because at the beginning, when there was the big surge and people were just buying whatever, it's like, what? Why is that video of someone just eating a strawberry selling for like tens of thousands of dollars? Like they're not even like a famous person. Like,
right.
Does someone just bought that because it was the next one that came up on the thing? Like, what is going on?
Good question. I recommend to especially anybody watching, when you start, my recommendation to start with NFTs is Wax. Get a Wax wallet. Wax is so free and easy, or like somebody could send you one for free. There is no minting charge. There's no gas fees, and it's a fun, easy way for people to get onboarded into it without having to really figure out too much. And I think it's an easy place to start for minting and all. But yeah, I find that's a great place to start. Have you messed around with any Wax NFTs yet?
No, I haven't even heard about Wax.
Oh, cool. Yeah. There's a site called Atomic Hub, which is kind of like the open sea for Wax NFTs. You would get a Wax wallet. I could send you a link if
Sure.
But it's free. And then like what I've been doing, any of my friends or anybody that get one, I'll send a couple NFTs just so you could see how how this system works. It's definitely fun. Like say you were doing like, I'm getting hired to make a collection for a concert that's being put on. Everybody at the show is getting this bracelet. If you have a bracelet, you're going to have a code to go and get an NFT that matches it. And it's, limited to just who gets them, who's at the show. And that'll be on wax because they won't have to worry about, like you said, the gas fee. There's been so many NFTs that I've wanted. And I'm like, man, I'm not going to spend triple the money on gas than I would for the actual NFT or whatever it ends up being, equal or whatever. It's totally, it's not fair. And it takes away all the fun enjoyability of like, oh, I'm going to go get this thing. It kills it for me. I'm not going to lie. It's been rough.
Yeah, man. Well, that just happened to me recently. An online friend offered to buy some of mine and like, giving him a collector's, giving him just a deal for buying a bunch, and he collected, and that's fine. Yeah, that's one weird thing too. I don't like how like you can see all the transactions. It's like, well, you gave that person a deal. Well, it's like, like there's a connection there. Like, so does it devalue your other ones? Because now these people get to see like, well, that one sold for less. Why? But it's weird. I mean, I can have a sale on my art on my website, and whatever just happens. People put sales on physical items all the time. Some people get it when it's on sale. Some people don't. And there's this whole thing in the NFT space about like the collectors and like really babying the collectors and all that. And like, it's like, oh, they're so sensitive. The collectors are so sensitive. Have you noticed that?
Yes, like, of course.
Don't confuse the collectors, which I understand to a degree.
Yeah.
I totally just went off a different tangent there, but
no, I feel you.
It's a fascinating thing to observe. But anyway, what I was going to say is like the gas fees were like, I was going to lose more than 50% of what I was selling them for. And I was like, that's absurd. Like, sorry, dude, we're going to have to wait till these gas fees are lower, but he'd already put an offer on. So he had to pay gas fees to put the offer on, but it's okay. Cause the offer can stand until gas fees hopefully lower, but it's like, well, dude, and he gets it. He gets it. He's like, that's fine. I'm patient. He knows he'll get them. But, this whole thing and with the collectors, I think, because what I did, I'll just explain what I did, because this may be a fascinating subject to you when the NFT space is like, how do we do like editions, and are they one of one, and people have different feelings about editions. And what I did with these ones I put out there on Maker's Place is I made a one of one edition that's like a full screen 4K no camera movement edition. So it's just the full high res version of the audio visual animated loop. Okay. And they're all meant to work in like in loops. They're looping sequences. And then I made like a 10 out of 10 version of the same image, but there's sort of like a camera panning in and out, because I think it's kind of cool also to like focus in on the detail and then zoom out. And what my thoughts were around that is that actually the one of one, even though I left it open to offers, I think it potentially has like a higher value to collectors because it's the one of one full screen 4K. Whereas the other one, like, the image gets cut off, the camera moves in and out. It depends what's the utility of why are you collecting these, like if you collect the high res 4K version, maybe at some point you're going to have a video display gallery in your home, or you have one of those, Black Dove displays where you can rotate different looping animations. So I think on those terms of like utility for these things, like how are they being used, and what's the context of it? And I don't think anyone really fully knows yet. So the idea of like coddling collectors, it seems weird because, well, who are the collectors? I mean, you're talking about an entire world of people that have different opinions on what these things even are, and no one's really clear. So I think we're just still in a pretty experimental stage with all of that.
Oh yeah. I got hit up by one of my older friends I went to school with, and the question I'm getting asked more than once is, how do I persuade my wife or partner, how do I get my wife to be okay with me buying some NFTs? How do I explain why, people are excited about it, but they're a little like, that's the question I've been getting asked, like by friends who like my show, but they're like, hey, can you can you get into that? Like, because it's still so new is all I'm saying. And people don't even know, they just hear like, oh man, I heard there's millions being made. And like, I tried to do like a video series on this very thing, but what I found it like pretty impossible to make content on the subject, because like when I was trying to answer those questions, it's hard to answer that, especially without sounding like some schmuck that's like, sounds like I'm pushing, trying to push something on you. So I didn't make it, but it is a good question where in the beginning, how do I know this is valuable? What makes it valuable? How do I explain this to my husband or wife or partner and get them to be okay with me dropping $1,000 on this thing that I can't hold,
Yeah.
So
yes. Exactly. And I think that's honestly, it's part of the reason why I dropped out of the NFT, creating this visionary NFT collective. It was like building awesome momentum. And, I was setting up collaborations between animators, visual artists, painters, digital, and musicians. It was so fun actually for a while there, like connecting, because I do a lot of art galleries, or I have in the past, of visionary artists from around the world at festivals and things. So I had good connections. And anyway, it just started to really come to me like, how can I don't actually know enough about this to fully keep investing in it, because it actually started to become more and more convoluted the more I looked into the NFT space, and more confusing. And like, how do I do this? So I need to step away and watch what happens a little bit, and see, I don't feel like it's my time now to necessarily be involved. Plus it was springtime, outdoor projects were happening, gardening. I'm like, I need a break, but it is, how do we sell something where we're confused about the value and utility of it? Whereas for years, for example, I was actually trying to sell my animated art on a platform called Black Dove, which has in the past few months moved to NFTs, but they were like one of the first video art platforms, and they were kind of trying to be something like Spotify for video art, for animated video, like looping video art. And they had a Kickstarter a bunch of years ago, and they were trying to do like, you can buy like a video display a panel, have it in your home, have it in your office or public space, and then you have an app on your phone that sends, you can choose through the artist, and you can like buy or rent their visuals. And they were trying to figure out like the scheme, and it kind of almost started out like NFTs at first, where some artists were trying to charge like tons of money, like you could buy this one of one. It didn't seem to be really panning out, like no one seemed to care. So they're like, well, we should just make it where it's like $1, like, or $1.99, like iTunes or Spotify or something. Like, okay, well, you create your account and you get to buy this, and then it's on your account and you can access it at any time, and then you can send it from your phone to your smart TV. And that was really slow going, man. Like, I think partly maybe their PR was bad or whatever, their promotion. And that was years of just like not seeing a lot of momentum with that, and people not really seeming to care about video art. I would try and promote it numerous times. And I understand, like, a lot of people just, even if they have a smart TV or thing, they usually turn it off if they're not using it. And so it depends on the context. So now they're getting into NFTs, but where I was going with that is, again, this utility of, okay, if you have this collection of art, whether it's animated art or these digital art pieces, what is it for? And I had to come to the conclusion again that it was sort of like, well, in this cryptocurrency space, it's another currency. It's like that's why it's a non-fungible token. It's not the same as regular cryptocurrency, but you're still creating a currency. It's just a little more confusing because the value of it becomes a lot more subjective and slippery. It's like, which just is the art world in general, which I'm used to, but it's like, so I don't know. I can't help you either. I definitely haven't like been in a position to convince anyone of you should
Right.
get into NFTs. It just seems like if people have found their way to it, and then they've maybe been into crypto, and
Yeah.
they got lit on one of the bull runs, and they're like, all right,
Hell
I'm gonna
yeah.
like invest in this artist. And like just selling one the other day, someone like they actually commented like, I'm not buying this for resale value, like I just want to support this artist.
See, that's great. I like
And I
that.
think a lot of that was going on as well.
Yeah.
Which also falls into the category you mentioned earlier of supporting projects, So, and I think that's, hearing a lot of discussions around that, like selling art that also has potentially donations going to a certain cause
Yeah.
is one of the utility ways that this can work.
Right. The usage is so important. And there's a reason I have a bunch of videos on the channel where I'm showing NFT games, play to earn and stuff like that. And there's a reason. There's usage there. You might buy that NFT. It's an avatar that you buy. You could, some of them, you own the rights to it. You could do what you want with it, use it in a game later, things like that. See, to me, that's usage. That's going towards what's coming, which a lot of the new games, you buy NFTs within it and you can earn crypto or earn new NFTs, stuff of value that makes it limited and rare for the people who earn it and all. So I'll continue to post stuff like that because I do think there's a lot of fun in that. And I like the fun side of it for sure. I don't know. I guess, like I said, like I didn't heavily invest like crazy, just kind of having fun with it. But at the same time, like I'm less and less talking about projects and things that are just, if it's a quick flip, like to make a bunch of money, that's cool. And I respect your hustle, not you, but you know what I mean? Like somebody doing it, but it's not something here that I'm going to be presenting as much. So I appreciate the fact that, that we got to talk about some of this stuff today, man, because it's a turning point, in NFTs, in that whole, in crypto in general, in the financial system with the reset, everything tied in together. I feel like it would be irresponsible to keep talking like everything is perfect and great when so these subjects and more, I'm sure there's a bunch of other things we could have gotten into, but to kind of pull it back a little bit, because I'd feel like it wouldn't be responsible of me otherwise. I see that you have a cello behind you, and I'm very curious, how long have you been playing for and what do you got back there? It looks really nice.
Thanks, man. Yeah. Can I just actually tie one more section on to the previous part?
Of course.
I just want to mention, like, for people listening, because I do think a lot of people getting into NFTs and are in this digital art space were not in a traditional art space before, a traditional art market.
There you go.
And I have been for quite a long time. And there's tons of money laundering that goes on. And you look at a show like Art Basel, where some ridiculous things like the banana on the wall or whatever sells for tens of thousands of dollars. And it's like, there's money laundering going on. And it has been happening in the art scene for years. The art scene is just as controlled at the top as the financial market. It's all these big people deciding like, oh, this artist is going to be valuable. And then they hype that artist and make them valuable. And then it makes their investment go bigger. And then they sell it off. They short people, and it happens in the art world too. So that looks like that might have been what potentially is happening in the crypto space. And I know we kind of touched on that, but I just wanted to connect it to the traditional art market as being like having that level of corruption.
Sure.
And it doesn't mean to say it's all corrupt, because I make a living off of selling art and art prints. And I think people can with NFTs. People are, and it's still great. So it's up to the artist to continue to be creatively find these different ways of utility and negotiating together however we want to see it unfold. So there's always those elements. I just wanted to tie that in there.
No, you're right, because it's still the Wild West. So I think what you're saying is just sharpen up your spurs a little bit, you know what I mean, before you get out there. Know that it's exciting, it's fun, but there should be people like us discussing the other part of it, because there are risks. There are a lot of areas I lost money just because I dove into it and I wanted to know about it so badly that I screwed up in a couple places and I wasted a couple $100 here and there, just not knowing what I was doing.
Right. Hear that all the time for sure. Or
Mhm.
just like, oops, I sent that money to the wrong wallet. Like that's a huge one I heard a lot. I thought at one point I lost a bunch of money, like thousands of dollars. I was like, like I was so choked, man. But then I found out it was like in Ethereum space somewhere. And I had to do this backdoor kind of access to it and got it. But anyway, man, yeah, thanks for letting me say that. So the cello, I'll go to that. Yeah, I started playing in 2008, or 2009, I think that was actually.
Wow,
anyway,
okay.
one of those years there. I'd been playing other instruments for most of my life before that. Started with guitar, went to bass, played drums, recorded some of my own albums on like a digital 8-track, just playing music for a long time alongside my art. And then when I got into art, it was like 2004 when I just like busted full on into like dove into visionary art and it snowballed. So I kind of stopped playing music for almost 4 years. And then had this download. I was out of Vipassana meditation, and on the last day, I just heard this voice that was like, "You got to play cello," or like you will play cello, something like that, right? And then 2 days later, I happened to meet a cello teacher on the ferry here, the ferry boat, and I was like, "Well, is that a cello?" And she's like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Oh, I teach lessons," and she was teaching lessons 2 blocks from where I lived, and so I rented one and got into it. And it's been over the years though, like because I do so many things, like shit, man, the past year and a half, I've barely touched the thing. Like I walk by it. I love it. I love its presence and I like it being there. So I can just sometimes even just pluck the strings and hear that resonance or just like bling, or like maybe I'll play it for a few minutes. I have my other instruments in the room around me also, but yeah, it's such a beautiful instrument. And when I get the chances to play it, it's awesome. The resonance, that's we're talking about vibration and frequency, like having that frequency right against the body. So I got there's a cello song on that Heophon progressive rock album, and we filmed actually a music video. I should send that to you. We filmed it in the forest up here, so maybe people want to check that out.
Yeah, definitely send away. I watched it. Did you have it posted on YouTube from a couple weeks ago?
Yeah, Hero's Journey.
Yes, it was awesome. Really awesome. Yeah, that was great. Who did the video, by the way? It looked great.
Thanks. Our friend Marquis. Her company is called Fractal 5. It was really like she was a student still, I think still is in school. And I mean, her and I did it together. I ended up doing a ton of the editing. Like we co-directed it. Also her partner for the time for a bit of it, Jeff, he was a little bit involved for a bit. But it was mostly her and myself. And it was it was totally on a whim. It's crazy, dude. Like it was such we just went up, we like had a basic idea, like, all right, let's go up into the forest. It was a really cold October day. So we're like freezing our ass off. Didn't plan it out. Let me tell you, if you're gonna, and I knew this already, but we kind of just did it anyway on the whim of fun. But like, don't shoot a music video without proper like like sound cuts and knowing, like having a source of sound that you're listening to that you can cut to. Because man, it was a nightmare to edit that thing. It was so intense. It was so drawn out because we did not have that proper audio source. And especially with the drums, it was like, all right, that seems like that fits there.
Dude, to link it up later, that must have been a pain in the ass then.
Yeah, to sync the sound, it was like, like there's no way she could have done it on her own. We had to do it all together because she doesn't know the song. And so I was like, all right, here's this part, here's that part.
Right. And wasn't there, I hope I'm remembering this right, I watched a few things this morning, but there's a part with your drummer in the waterfall.
Yeah.
Right. So it must have been really cold then. I was wondering, you could see it. He was like, woo.
Yeah, he was doing some Wim Hof there for sure, man. Nice. He got in. It was a cold day. It was cold. Yeah, he braved it. It was awesome. Yeah, made for a good scene.
Hell yeah. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, shout out to Wim Hof too, and my buddy Brandon Powell, who's friends with him. Nice. Awesome. Yeah, they are big on that. He's been telling me, I saw him a few days ago. So you got to get in the tub, man. You got to get in the tub with an ice tub. Like, it's training. He thinks I should, I've had highs and lows in my mental state as far as a series of like depression coming back and forth post my mom passing, and
Yeah.
we were talking about like it's one thing to do qigong and meditate and all, but I know I need to be rattled. Like I could feel it. I need a rattling, like a strong rattling. And he was just like, "You got to get in the tub, man. That's the place to do it." And I think he's right. I've practiced Wim Hof for a couple of years now. I've known about it, so I think I'm gonna go for it. I'm not committing right now, but I think it's probably gonna be me trying to give myself a little bit of a jump start. He just said he's gonna give me some specific rules so I don't do anything stupid, but I think I'm daring enough to try it. Have you ever done that? Gotten into any
I haven't done like a full ice tub, but I've gone into really cold water. Like we have the ocean here right where I live. It's like a few minutes away walking. And so going in there, I don't do it much in the winter. What I do on the regular is just cold showers at the end.
Yes.
At the end of a hot shower. Like I've just been
too.
building up my time. And it's not the same. I get it. You're not fully submerged. It's not as cold, but it's still, you get the sensation of like, wow, this feels good. And I actually don't even like ending. Like I have to end on a cold shower now. Otherwise I feel kind of off. Like there's moments where I might end on a hot shower, but typically I feel like way better ending on the cold shower.
Same.
Or like coming out of the hot tub and just going like right for the full cold shower, jumping into the lake. The ice bath, haven't done. I mean, I can't, even the shower, I'm not even doing as much here. Just we're on like a stage 4 water restrictions, which is kind of a thing to note with usage of water is like, okay, like we can't be just filling up. Maybe if in the winter you have like your ice bath all the time, but if people are just doing ice baths in the summer all the time, like kind of, maybe are you reusing that water like on your plants or something? Because it's potentially a lot of like excess water usage.
Right.
Anyway, it's I think it's awesome, man. I love the cold thing.
Yeah, me too.
And I just haven't done the full ice bath, but
that's cool.
Yeah.
No, it's cool. I'm glad you're also a goofball like me. I do the same thing. I've been doing it for a couple years now. I end my shower cold, and without it, I mean, like if I'm really lazy that day, or I might just forget about it. But I'd say 9 out of 10 days for sure. Just turned it all on cold. But Brandon did make fun of me for that. He's like, it doesn't count. It doesn't count. I'm like, all right, man. So I'll probably step it up soon and give it a try. See how that goes.
It's good. I think like, we were just at a lake with my family, and it's a really cold lake, Kootenai Lake. And so my partner Jane and I on the last few, like 3 or 4 mornings, we're like, why haven't we been going in the lake in the morning? Like we go in the middle of the day when it's hot up. We're like, we got to do it when we wake up. And there is something about like right when you wake up, going out and having that dose, and like, and it's pretty, like there was a creek, a mountain creek coming in right where we were. So it's like pretty close to ice cold actually.
Okay.
And people would know that saying Kootenai Lake, like it's a cold lake. But yeah, just, and having a timer and like going for, like 5 or 10 minutes, and it's a good, man. You just like, you feel alive for sure.
Awesome.
Nice.
Yeah. I love that stuff. So I got to ask you, I know Freeman mentioned you live pretty close to Devin Townsend, like in the same area as Devin Townsend.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Are you into any of his music? Have you gotten?
Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. I dig his music. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I don't know him. He just lives in my neighborhood.
Oh yeah, no, it wasn't. Yeah,
you don't. I saw him once or twice around. It's just funny. Like he's like, I guess one of the few like where I live, like let's call him a celebrity.
Yeah. Yeah,
right. Funny.
He'd probably hate that because he's so. I don't know. He seems like one of those particular people where I don't know. He's not like, oh, look at me, I'm a giant rock star. He's kind of the opposite of super rock star. Yeah.
Well, I think like he blends in when I've seen him around. He's like, and this is no jab at him, but he's sort of blending in, wearing like sweatpants and like a rainbow colored, a big baggy rainbow colored jacket and a toque, which is sort of like is like like a lot of like, let's say hippies live here, myself included, like sort of like woodsy hippie folk that might look like that, just like very casual. People aren't like, so many people just go out in their whatever clothes here. Like no one's trying to typically dress to impress.
Right.
Not that that's You know what I'm saying though?
Yeah,
Anyway,
of course.
it's just kind of sorry, bump my computer. Just kind of a funny feature I noticed. Like, oh yeah, maybe he's blending in, maybe he's just being casual, whatever.
Right.
But
Yeah.
whatever people do. That's
I've
funny observations on humanity and how people represent.
It's funny though, because he talks about all this stuff, being a fan of his for years.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he wears sweatpants out. He's not trying to impress anybody.
Yeah.
And he's so amazing. I mean, I just wanted to bring him up. I figured you obviously, I didn't care if you knew him or not, but the fact that you knew of him and he lived close to you is awesome, because not everybody really knows Devin Townsend. I mean, you know, for metal and prog, it's pretty much a household name at this point. But let's face it, not too long ago, people would have been like, you know, they wouldn't have known who I was talking about. So I like the fact that he's totally down to earth. But we could get off of that subject. I'm sorry. I just kind of drift off into, I geek out over certain things. I can't help it.
That's cool, man. No, I mean, I think it's cool. Like because when we're talking about NFTs and like, I'll tie it into the conversation in the sense that like NFTs are often what we're seeing is like an appreciation of art and art collectors. And what I see a lot of actually is artists collecting art of other artists. And like, that's what I mean about this whole digital economy of art collection is like, well, what a trip if it's like actually a bunch of artists trading art and having this other value within the art space and appreciating it and doing these collaborations and seeing where it goes and raising money. And Devin Townsend in particular is an artist that, you know, he uses his full spectrum of expression, which I really appreciate. And that's what I try and do, you know, and you and I were talking about that yesterday, you know, of like having that like dark, you know, like my prog or post rock stuff has sort of like what some people might call a darker atmosphere, and they just can't get into it. And I try and keep my visual art has been a little bit more branded towards like nature and the light, let's say the lighter side of things. But I really believe in the full expression and of our beings, like our beings. And that was this whole conversation we had is this full expression of our being. Like what are our shadow sides and what are our light sides, and finding that balance. And man, like Devin has done such an amazing job at that, especially with his past couple albums, you know, like, definitely. Or, you know, and his last one being a double album, like Empath, he's talking about all of that, like going through that process of being an empath and seeing the world and the confusion. And we're all facing that. It's so important. So man, he's a brilliant artist in that way. And, you know, like Tool, like the shirt you're wearing, you know, like they're super good at expressing that spectrum of expression. And I appreciate that. And we thrive on that expression.
Definitely. You know? Well, then I only had one more question for you, but I'm going to add another one because I'm curious. Your favorite guitar player, who were you influenced most by?
Favorite guitar player?
Yeah, favorite guitarist. Like who hit you?
I'm only laughing that I've actually, I don't think I've ever thought about like my specifically favorite guitar player. Like, to be honest, I just don't have like, I would say like bass is sort of more my instrument, even though I started out playing guitar and I love guitar for a bunch of years. I was into like flamenco style. Like I recorded a lot of songs just because I was traveling and had a guitar with me, a little acoustic. And it was my first, and I played a lot of like, and I was in South America anyway. So over time, I've been influenced by different things. When I was really into bass, which I still am, like electric bass and cello. So bass was like Les Claypool, right? Like
nice.
You know, things like, you know, Flea from Chili Peppers, No Means No, they're a Canadian like rock punk band. Awesome. Like where bass is in the front, you know, kind of like that growly bass. So any music like that where bass was featured in the front.
Nice.
Who else can I think of? But yeah, that type of thing. I'd say those things influenced me a lot.
Cool.
And even Tool, you know, Tool has a lot of like bass forward riffs and
definitely
love that shit. And Adam Jones, awesome guitar player.
Definitely. Now you mentioned some good ones. I shouldn't have said guitarist. I should have just said musician. That's on me. But I had to ask just because I've literally been listening to your stuff for 2 days straight now. And I really like, I don't know, I like the the writing. I like the production. I like the themes and the overall. I feel like the art matches the music and everything is connected. And it's so important to somebody like me. I'm a collector. I collect vinyl. I have since I was a little kid. Yes, I prefer it on a physical format, but just like NFTs, I also find value in a digital format as well. Especially if it's the only way I'm going to get to hear the song. I'm totally, like, plus I love digital because then you can burn it, put it on CD and bring it in your car and all. But I like the avenues. I like that you have many avenues and that you're really putting yourself out there. I like that you have multi projects. I'm a person myself. I do that as well. I feel like it's a really good avenue for full creativity. Like you could still create, like if you just have one band or one project, that one song might not fit it. So it might have to take a back seat, where what you're doing, I'm sure you feel completely free. I don't want to assume, but I would, right? I mean,
sometimes I feel like, yeah, it's been interesting, right? It happens to an artist where like, yeah, where do you, I've heard this from a lot of musicians, like they wish they could make their albums more like a mixtape. And again, with Devin, I feel like especially Empath is like really a lot like that. And
definitely.
I've like one of my first like digital albums that I put out in 2012. It's on my website, Pulse. It was more of a mixtape where it goes from like down tempo to post rock.
Right.
I was like, whatever. But now I actually have tried to sort of cultivate like my name. I want it to be, I'm going to be it a bit more like ambient down tempo kind of style. So just Simon Haiduk is that's that music. And then Heophon is more progressive rock. And now I've put out another moniker last year, which was Agaricon, which I kind of actually, the Agaricon, I kind of want to be maybe the exploration of like the album's kind of post rock. It's an EP, but I kind of want to explore a bunch of different things. Whereas I guess with my music, I just feel, a bit more freedom of expression. Whereas with the art, it's just because it's like my career. And I think that happens where sometimes it just becomes a bit more branded because you're sort of sticking to like, well, this works for how I make a living. And
right.
No one wants to end up in that trap, and it almost can sound like a sellout, but I don't think it's a sellout if you love it. Like I love it. I love making the visual art that I do. Like, man, I get so much healing from like making art about nature and metaphysical energy. Like, God, the experiences I have. So I think, you just have to find that and be able to, I think if you're feeling trapped, at least find another type of expression that where you can get out those other things if you're feeling the need to.
Right.
I don't know if that answers whatever
totally.
you were saying, but yeah.
And I apologize. I pronounced your last name incorrectly. Then it was Haiduk.
Yeah, Haiduk. Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry I pronounced it wrong in the beginning. I wasn't sure, so I went for it.
Happens all the time.
Okay, cool. Well, then I will ask you the one question that I make sure to ask everybody that comes onto the show, and this one's easy. I'm curious what your first collectible or toy was that inspired you from a kid all the way up. What were you into growing up?
Man, the first things that I remember specifically collecting were Star Wars toys.
Nice.
Yeah,
definitely.
So had a few Transformer toys. Also, I heard you saying that you had Transformers.
Oh yeah.
I think Freeman said his were Star Wars. I think Star Wars is a lot of people, because Star Wars totally captured the like collectible market in this hilarious way though. Like once I really started to see it, I was like, oh my God, like they just tag collectible onto anything they make. And they make like Star Wars, you could buy like Star Wars, everything in the world, like a Star Wars potato peeler or some shit, and it's like you can get number one of 50,000 and we'll put the number on it so you think it's a collectible, right? Like they just captured that. So I was into it, loved Star Wars, and then at one point just gave it up. I was like, you know what? I'm moving out. I don't care about holding on to these anymore, and sold the package to someone for a cheap price. I was like, I could have probably resold it and looked it up on eBay and like done the whole thing, but I was just like, sometimes it's just good to let go of things. And probably got back what I invested in financially, but
that's cool. And So the funny thing you mentioned is so true, and I'm sure you've seen the movie Spaceballs, but like that's a perfect example how they have like the name on every single thing you could think of, like just going crazy, selling every kind of piece of merchandise, and it's just funny, funny thing that I one of my favorite scenes. It's actually one of my favorite like old school comedies. Mel Brooks is kind of funny back then.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, well, I think it brings into question too when we're talking about NFTs or Nifties. I don't mind Nifties either. I think it's cool that you guys called it Nifty Dimensions.
Cool,
because I love thinking about like because we're talking about so many different dimensions to things.
Yeah.
And so let's explore these dimensions.
Yep.
And I don't mind the term Nifty. Some people don't like it, but
right.
Call it whatever. We're thinking about what we're collecting and like what is it, whether it's something for a game that you're going to reuse or whatever you're investing into. So yeah, man, it's all part of it. It's
definitely
interesting realm to explore.
Wow. Well, Simon, I can't thank you enough for coming onto the show, man. I don't want to hold you for too long. I know we've been talking for a while. Please know that you're always welcome back on the show. But I want to leave the floor yours. Anything you want to say to anybody watching at home, any upcoming things or anything you want to talk about, by all means.
Thank you so much, Leonardo. It's been a real pleasure talking to you and Freeman. It was good to connect with him the other day. I'm so stoked that you guys are putting out this show in this way of being able to explore this. So I am also in total gratitude of this. And I hope we have some more. What's coming up for me? Man, right now, the past few months, I've been working on an outdoor project. I'm building a physical gallery space. I got some funding for that. So all my attention's been out there. And it's going to be like a multi-purpose art gallery, studio, temple. We keep calling it the temple.
Nice.
That my partner is also going to use for different types of her counseling and a community space. So that's exciting. But then in the digital realm, I'll still be putting out more NFTs. And then also I have plans this fall. So for a while with my animated art, I've been doing like an audio visual meditation that I call Metagrove. And I was doing live presentations of this where I actually do I take my animations that are these looping animations, and then I put them into VJ software and I remix it with different effects to live music. So sometimes my own music or sometimes other musicians. Sometimes I've done concerts, like actual just VJing concerts. Nice. But I've been wanting to do an online version of that. So I'm building up towards that. And, just stay tuned on my channels for when I'll present. That'll be like an online concert type thing. So I'm really excited about getting that going.
Yeah, please let me know. Let us know here. That's awesome. And by all means, if there's ever anything, even if you're too busy for an interview, but something coming up and you just want me to, talk about it on the show, we love what you're doing. I'm so glad that Freeman showed me everything you're doing because I love it, man. I love the positive vibes. While all this chaos and craziness is going on in good and bad, art with positive vibes and proper frequency and all, I feel like it's such a blessing right now as far as, it's a cool investment, definitely. But I really like the fact that your art makes me want to invest in you as an artist, right? Like that's what we're really going for. Like I'm not, it's cool to flip stuff and all. I'll never knock it, but it's there's the community is based in my opinion, the coolest members of the community are all about the reciprocation. Yes, a lot of my favorite artists that I've talked to, they do collect other NFTs. They're probably some of the biggest purchasers of them, and vice versa. But I've also been given NFTs by some of the artists and all, because there's this love there's a love of the game, but there's such an important part of the love that people need to share and give back. Sometimes you see it on Twitter, sometimes you don't, but either way, it's a community that I think is worthwhile. And I hope everybody watching today heard the pros as well as the cons. It's something here on this show that's going to be more consistent as it keeps going, pointing out all assets or all facets, I should say, of the investing in NFTs and putting them out and everything. So Yeah, Simon, seriously, man, thank you very much. I know I've been all over the place today, but we had so many good things to get into. So once again, thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you, man. I think you had a good line of it all. And yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Definitely. All right. Well, we will talk soon. And everybody else out there, please hit subscribe and like and hit the bell for notifications so you don't miss out on what we're doing here. We do appreciate the support and the love. To everybody else, be good. Have a great day and peace.
Yeah. Thanks, Leonardo. Peace, man.